Okay, section 12B. We talked about electoral college and how each state gets a certain number. Now let's talk about how each individual person within those states can make a difference. So let's liken it to cakes. We're going to talk about cake power. So we have, let's say there are 3 parties that are having cake for its guests. If each person is to get a piece of cake, how many people will each cake serve? In other words, we want to know how many people are served for one cake. So party A has 100 people and 4 cakes. So if we want the number of people per cake, we're going to take the number of people and divide it by the number of cakes. So we want 100 people per 4 cakes. So we get 25 people per cake. Okay, so that one cake is going to serve 25 people. Party B has 500 people and 5 cakes. So we have 500 people divided by 5 cakes. So we get 100 people per cake. Okay, party C, we have 10,000 people and 20 cakes. Okay, so we have 10,000 people divided by 20 cake. And we get 500 people per cake. So one cake from party A will serve 25 people, one cake in party B will serve 100 people, one cake in party C will serve 500 people. So which of these parties do you want to go to? Which one will you get the most cake? And of course we want party A, right? Because one cake's only gets served between 25 people, so you get a larger slice if you go to party A. So that's going to be the number with the fewest people per cake will have the highest cake power. So in this case, it's party A. So let's liken this to votes. So each state has a certain number of population and a certain number of votes. So we're going to talk about voting power, just like this cake power. We're going to talk about the population per vote to figure out how much your vote is worth. So in this case, one piece of cake in party A is going to be a lot larger than one piece of cake in party C. So we want the larger piece of cake, we want the larger piece of power. So voting power is going to be the population divided by the number of votes for that state. And just like the fewest number of people here has the highest power, the fewest people per vote is going to have the highest vote power. So the 3 states that have the highest vote power are going to be Wyoming, Vermont, and North Dakota. And Wyoming, there are about 143,000 people for each of its 3 electoral votes. So each vote, 143,000 people get 1 vote. The states with the least voting power are going to be New York, Florida, and California. These states each have 500,000 people for each electoral vote. So it only takes 143,000 people to get 1 vote in Wyoming. It takes 500,000 people to get a vote in New York. I'm not sure why these numbers are different. I just kind of noticed that, but this is just kind of an example of how things might be different. So in Wyoming, let's say you have 195,000 people. So if you're one of these little people in here, you get a larger piece of the cake than if you were one of these people. Okay, so let's practice finding that number, the number of people per vote. So in 2012, California had 55 electoral votes. Wyoming had 3 electoral votes. Their state populations were approximately 38 million and 576,000, respectively. In terms of electoral votes per resident, contrast the voting power of California and Wyoming. Okay, actually this should be reversed in terms of number of residents per electoral vote. So we're going to switch that here. So California had approximately how many people per electoral vote? So again, we want people per vote, just like we wanted people per cake. So we're going to take the number of people. So in California had 38 million. And we're going to divide that by the number of votes, which was 55. So people per vote. We divide that and we get 690,909. So in California, it took about 690,909 people to make up one electoral vote. Now compare that to Wyoming. Wyoming had a population of 576,000, and they had 3 electoral votes. So we divide that out, and we would end up with 192,000. So only 192,000 people made up one electoral vote, because Wyoming's people per vote is smaller. Wyoming would have the higher power. So each person in Wyoming makes a bigger difference than each person in California. Okay, so what is a Florida vote? So Florida gets 29 electoral votes. They have about 14.6 million eligible voters. Voters in Florida have the least individual impact on the Electoral College. So we can use Florida votes as the basic unit to measure the influence of voters in the other states. Kind of like how we use like 1 inch or 1 foot as like a unit. So it takes 3.5 Florida voters to make as much difference in the Electoral College as 1 voter in Wyoming. Meanwhile, Louisiana voters have the national average, which is 1.19 Florida votes per person. Of course, these ratios are based on eligible voters, but that can change dramatically from one election to another because not all the eligible voters actually go out and vote. So you might have not a whole lot of power, but if not everyone actually votes, then you have a higher power because the number of this population would then decrease, which means you have a higher power. Okay, a little bit more practice finding power here. So we have 4 states here. They give our population and they give the number of electoral votes. Let's figure out the people per electoral vote for each state. So we're going to take our population, our 742,000, divide it by electoral votes. And so Alaska has 247,333 people per electoral vote. Illinois, you take your 12 million, divide it by your 20, and you get 640,100. New York, you take 19 million and divide it by 29, and you get 680,862. Rhode Island, we're going back smaller, just over 1 million, divided by the 4 electoral votes, and you get 264,000. Okay, which state has more voting power per person, Alaska or Illinois? Well, Alaska is 247, Illinois is 640. You always go with the smaller one, has the higher power. So Alaska has the higher power. Okay, so which state between Alaska or New York? Let's go 647 and 680. Again, 247. 247 and 680. 247 is smaller, which means there's more voting power. So again, it's Alaska. Okay, now let's compare Rhode Island and Illinois. Illinois has 640. Rhode Island has 264. 264 is smaller, so it has a higher power. So we have Rhode Island. Now Illinois or New York. So Illinois is 640, New York is 680. 640 is smaller, so it has the higher power. So Illinois. Okay, well, let's rank them in order of voting power per person. So now we're going to look at all 4 of them. We want to rank them according to most voting power to least voting power. So most voting power has the smallest people per electoral vote. So the smallest of all of them is Alaska. The next smallest is Rhode Island. And then 40 is next, so Illinois, and then New York. Oops, sorry. And that is it for 12B. Pretty short.